Well, there's a very cautious optimism, I'd say. Yeah, very cautious indeed, though. There's even been a little bit of pushback against those comments by Joe Biden, expressing optimism that a ceasefire, some kind of ceasefire deal, could be in place as early as next week. One Israeli media outlet reporting that an Israeli official had said there was still a lot of work to be done. We know that Hamas is studying the draft proposal, which was put together and put forward by American, Israeli, Qatari and Egyptian officials over the weekend at those Paris talks. Those proposals would include plans to swap Palestinian prisoners for a group of Israeli hostages, also provisions to put in place a temporary ceasefire. We also know that there are talks going on between Hamas and Israeli officials in Doha this week. They're not direct talks, that's why they're called proximity talks. But whichever way you look at it, I think what's happening here is that there is a concerted effort by some of the parties involved here to create, to build momentum ahead of Ramadan, whether it's by leaking details of truce talks to the media, to try and incite and push both sides into reaching some sort of deal before Ramadan.
And Andrew, the war presumably high on the minds of Israeli voters today who are going to the polls in municipal elections. Tell us a bit about this vote, because I know you've been reporting on it, and particularly in the north of Israel, where I understand some Israelis can't vote because of instability along the border with Lebanon.
Yes, indeed. These are long-awaited municipal elections. They're long-awaited because they've already been delayed twice because of the war in Gaza and because of clashes along Israel's border with Lebanon. But not everyone will be able to vote. These elections taking place under the shadow of war. 11 municipalities not able to vote. That's because their residents were evacuated back in October. And that includes regions in northern Israel along the Lebanese border where our team went yesterday. Take a look.
It's the end of the school day in Kibbutz Amir, and Aviad is taking his son, Itai, back home. They evacuated last October, but after 5 weeks the family decided to return.
Here it's written nursery for now. It's a nursery in a bomb shelter. It's only temporary. He says he isn't scared, but he can't go to the bathroom by himself anymore. Someone has to go with him.
Aviad, his wife and 5 children were never given mandatory evacuation orders. But 10 kilometers from the border, the sound of sirens punctuates their daily lives, and they leave the kibbutz as little as possible.
If I want to buy bread for the Sabbath, it means I have to take a risk. Should I go to Kiryat Shimona or not? Should I buy bread or not? This whole situation is completely surreal.
Whilst much of Israel votes in municipal elections, here they've been delayed for the 3rd time since October. Yoam Even Tuzur, an elected official, says it was inevitable.
We can't hold elections in regions where people have been evacuated. In our region, some of the kibbutz that sit right on the border have been evacuated. But we're still here. We've been here since October the 7th, and we feel abandoned.
Reminders of war are never too far away. On a nearby farm, Maxim shows us a corrugated iron roof punctured by shrapnel from a missile in 2006 when Israel invaded southern Lebanon.
Those are the remnants. It wasn't caused by rust. It was caused by shrapnel. When the missile landed, it sent shrapnel everywhere. With each passing day, we count ourselves lucky that it hasn't happened again.
At least 5 civilians have been killed by Hezbollah strikes in northern Israel since October. The figure is 10 times higher across the border in southern Lebanon, where Israeli strikes have killed at least 50 civilians.
And just to give you the latest developments coming out of northern Israel, earlier this morning the Israeli military confirming that Hezbollah had fired rockets at military targets in northern Israel. The IDF for its part saying it had responded to those attacks with more strikes on Hezbollah targets across southern Lebanon. Back to you.